Commence primary ignition.
Hi, I'm Yeleni Cushion. I played Varys Offee in Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, and you're watching the Virtual Cantina Network.
Thanks, Nalini.
Happy Monday, Rebels. Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Rebels Revisited. Woo!
You're
and
back.
I'm back. I made it. Thank you to you and Skip for covering
course.
last week.
Yeah, it was fun. Hi,
Yeah, you guys-
Jen. Hi,
You guys had a fun
John.
little walk along.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah,
guys.
that episode is great because it's like the perfect one for a watch along because it's just Chopper surprisingly making a friend. Like
Yeah.
we don't get very like Hera says, Chopper doesn't have any friends, so it's
Exactly.
like the best episode to watch.
Yeah,
Hi, Spencer.
I love a watch along. Hi Jen and John and Spencer. Yeah, it's nice to see Skip popping around, especially because as we've said multiple times, he will be our permanent co-host when Clone Wars Revisited launches later this year. Although we're
Yeah.
still making our way through Star Wars Rebels, which is very exciting, and we're almost done, I think, with the season 2 rewatch. I think we are, which is why we're now doing the best of season 2. I
Yeah.
think we timed it correctly. I got a little thrown in the calendar because a few things popped in, and then I was on vacation, and yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah, it's been a wild couple of months.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that we're kind of getting back to normal, although I'm sick again. So it's like I'm
Mhm.
just really over this weather. I'm just over the hot and the cold and
Yeah. Oh, it's
the
going to be 20
misery.
degrees again in New York on Wednesday, and I was just
Oh,
in like beautiful 80 degrees,
rude.
gorgeous weather. I was so for
Hi,
anyone,
Mike.
so Mike, thank you for the welcome back. If anyone was wondering where I was last week, I was in Puerto Vallarta, celebrating my husband's birthday with 10 of our friends, and
Happy
we
birthday,
had
Jason.
fantastic time. He had a great time. Jason had a great birthday. We
Yay.
had a beautiful house in the Zona Romantica, and right off the beach. It was like beach. We had a catamaran day. We rented a boat. We went all around town. It's like a party. It's a party boat. Let me tell you. Yeah, we had a lot of men with us, Mike. It was all boys. And
Yeah.
it's a party town. It's a nightlife town too. So we were out late. We were on the beach. We had just a ton of fun. We drank a lot. You guys know the meme, the Lady Gaga meme where she's like, club, another club, next place, get on the plane, bus, this next place, no
Yeah.
sleep. Like that was us. So it was a ton of fun, and I came back not at all rested or relaxed. And then right into the work week. We were gone from Thursday to Tuesday. So then I came back on that Wednesday or that Tuesday pretty late at night, and was back to work on Wednesday. I'm like, oh, even with a short week, it was a week.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's chaos right now
So you
everywhere.
didn't have a chance to catch your breath, really. Just
No,
right
I
into it.
I did nothing this weekend though. I had a nice relaxing weekend. I got
Good.
ready for this show because I had to do a lot of remembering for season 2 because it is my favorite season, and we have a
Yeah.
lot to talk about.
So good.
But then a whole bunch of news happened. So, oh my God, today can we all take a moment to talk about the big poster drop?
That is probably one of the coolest teaser posters I have ever seen
Yeah.
for a Star Wars project. Like, we've seen some good ones. I
hmm
think the Last Jedi one was pretty memorable too. But like honestly, it's almost terrifying.
Yeah, I mean that looks like blood.
Yeah.
So for anyone who might have missed it, and this is still a spoiler-free zone, but this doesn't give anything away. The poster was released today on the official Disney social media channels. I saw it on Instagram, and it's the poster for the Acolyte. They announced that the show is coming out on June 4th, which is
Right,
very
Sherry?
cool.
Yeah.
And Sherry is saying that she would like a copy of the poster to frame.
Me
I
too.
agree.
That'd
One
be
of the
like
things
the
I
perfect
really
cast piece.
Yes, and that's what I think so when I think cast piece, it needs to encapsulate the show without being like season specific or having characters on there that are people that and then other people are not there, especially if they're important. This one just shows a lightsaber hilt and like a streak of blood against the ground that is either snow or like how
It looks like it's stone,
yeah, stone,
which is
or even
cool.
like remember in The Last Jedi where like it was like a salt planet and
Yes.
then the red on top created that sort of red slice kind of
Yeah,
situation? Like that that's the same sort of cinematography, I would say. That same look and
right.
feel. I thought it
Mike
was
says it's like the crystal bleeding. That's so cool.
yeah. Yeah, there's some legit blood there. I think Disney's taking a big swing with this. I also like that they didn't show any characters. They're just giving us like the feel of the show. And the quote was like, "In an age of light, darkness rises." So this is the turning point. We're going from the age of like the Jedi ruling everything to the start of like the dark side.
Yeah. I'm so excited for this. Like, this has been something that I've been looking forward to. Aside from Ahsoka, this was my number 2 as far as, like, things that I'm
Mhm.
looking at. Yes, Mike, and Jamie was raging about that on Instagram earlier.
Yeah.
Like, if I see Vernestra, I'm gonna die. So, yeah,
Now-
I'm so excited about this, and I think it's gonna be
oh,
yeah, there we go. Thank you, Jeff.
mhm.
Look how cool this is, kids. This is so cool, and we got the date on it. It'll be dropping on Disney Plus on June the 4th,
Yep.
and
June
it's
4th.
scary.
We will have comprehensive wraparound coverage for the Acolyte, just like we're doing for the Bad Batch. There
Mhm.
will be an after show. My assumption is it'll still be John and Bryce and Mike. Mike is in the chat, so he can confirm
Yeah.
as to whether all three of them are being renewed for another season or if someone is getting the boot, if someone's getting the chop, or if we're replacing
Oh,
anyone.
Mike
All right,
confirmed.
I'm making sure. If
It's
you're adding
happening.
anyone to the panel, look, I think it's a good trio, so I enjoy your show.
Absolutely.
I keep it going. And so my assumption is they'll still be. Here's the thing: I assume the show is still on every Wednesday, so it'll probably be our after show on Fridays, just like we've been doing, and of course the Thursday night watch-alongs will follow suit.
Yeah,
We'll
June
probably
June
have
4th.
yeah.
June 4th is a Tuesday.
Oh, interesting. So if they're going to the
Mhm.
Tuesday structure, then Thursday watch-alongs, probably still Friday after shows. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That being said, more to come on the Acolyte. I'm glad we finally have a date. A date is really nice.
And a trailer tomorrow, kids. So make sure
Yes.
you stay tuned to the social channels because we'll be
Yeah.
posting that everywhere.
Yes. I would like to get back to appointment television. I think
Mhm.
one of the things that is missing in the world, look, the world's missing a lot of things, but appointment television is one of them, to add to the list because we're all consuming media in such different ways and it's all very spliced. And I got to tell you, X-Men is coming out this Wednesday and I've been doing nothing but rewatching X-Men, watching X-Men wraparound content, all that kind of stuff. And it occurred to me that it just comes out on Wednesday when I'm asleep. Like there is no tune in Wednesday night at 7 p.m., which we're adults now. The show's not being made for kids. Like make it a primetime thing. Make it 8 p.m. Eastern on a
Yeah.
Wednesday. I'm there. Like, I don't know why this isn't a thing.
Their scheduling is weird, and it has been weird since the beginning. So,
Yeah.
um, my hope is that they change that up a little bit, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think we need
Um,
to get back to some type of appointment television. It seems like they're doing that with Doctor Who. That was
mhm,
actually we're gonna come back to X-Men in a second.
yeah,
And we'll come back to Acolyte in a second too. Doctor Who, just to quickly close the loop on that, they announced the show is coming back in May, and there's all this hubbub for all the Whovians, and I know Sarah is a Whovian like me. Um, the air date because of Disney Plus being involved, or the air time is going to be Friday evenings at like 8 p.m. Eastern or 9 p.m. or whatever it is, 8 p.m. Pacific. I don't remember, but it syncs up in a way that like really works for like East Coast, but like is terrible for England. It's like midnight in England. So I want to say it's like 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight England, and
yes,
4 p.m. Pacific. So look, here's the thing.
it's
I
so
love that as a
strange.
New Yorker and someone who might be home at 7 o'clock on a Saturday on Friday night. Maybe, sure, that's a great like watch while watching, eating dinner or whatever. But Doctor Who is like a British staple for like the last 60 years, and they should really get the primetime viewing, and we should be getting the watch when it's available. And so
Yeah,
everyone in
but
England is pissed.
are they airing? Is it solely on Disney Plus for the
N-
UK?
no, but their live time is still that, is
Oh,
my understanding. That's the issue.
wow. Yeah, that's a little much.
I know, it doesn't make sense to me. So I have to find out more about this, but it was all the hubbub this weekend. I think there's probably a communication issue where it's probably still airing on like BBC at like a normal time,
Yeah,
but it
that's what I
might just
worry
be the
about.
Disney Plus like UK. So because look, it's a kid show in England too. So no child is staying up till midnight to watch that thing.
Mm,
Um,
nope.
but yeah, that was some news. Also, on the Acolyte front, as Ashley said, there's going to be a trailer tomorrow. So I'm assuming we'll talk at length about it during happy hour if anyone can make it to happy hour tomorrow. So more to come on that. And I'm sure the boys on Thursday will cover it in a big way.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Everybody knows I'm a huge Carrie Ann Moss fan, and
Hmm.
getting to meet her at Rhode Island Comic Con like totally made my day. Thank you to my friend Robert. Um, so I am so curious as to what character she's going to play.
Yeah.
And Amanda Stenberg, we've known her as Rue in the Hunger Games, the catalyst of everything for Katniss. Um, so it'll be cool to see what happens with her and who else is in it.
Mhm. I couldn't tell you anyone in the cast or anything. I'm so on the outs on this one because I'm not developing any product for it. So for me as a licensee, it's just something I haven't been paying attention to.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, but maybe down the road, you know. All right,
Yeah,
let's
maybe
talk
it's
about
just quiet for now until they get everything else out, and then they'll start
yeah.
marketing better.
I agree. I mean, like we just saw a poster. We're going to see a trailer. We still have 3 more months, and we still have to get through May 4th. And I think everyone probably saw this as well. And I knew about this. It's one of those things where they tell you something in secret, and then you see it on Instagram, and it's like, oh boy. Um, there's going to be an event at the Empire State Building to
Ah,
watch The Empire Strikes Back. And
ah,
the fact that no one has thought about this sooner, like myself included, makes me want to slap myself in the head. It's the Empire State Building. How they've never done anything with the Empire there, like, sort of cracks me up. But I think it's going to get lit up red, and it's like a kickoff of the whole dark side thing, and they're going to watch the movie. So
wow.
it's very cool, and it's happening. I want to say in May, in New York. I live in Manhattan. It's feasible for me to attend that thing. I actually don't know when it's happening. I don't remember. Like this is a problem, right? Um, but I'm sure people are going to attend that, and I'm sure there's more to it than just the Empire Strikes Back viewing. But I don't know. I need to do some more information on that. So if you're in New York, be on the lookout. I saw the ad on Instagram before I saw the official release of anything, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's
Yeah,
honestly, I have so many friends who are interested in going, so it's been making the rounds in the Facebook group. So make sure you go
yeah.
back and check that out if you're really interested in attending.
Hmm.
Uh, all my New Yorker, New Jersey people. Um, so I'm looking up the top cast for Acolyte, and we have Amanda Steinberg, Daphne Keene, who played Laura Kinney in X-23 and Logan, Jodie Turner Smith, uh, Jonas Swotimo, Amy Sang, Carrie Ann Moss, Jean Charles Chapman, Margarita Livea, Charlie Barnett. Let's see, Lee Jung Jae from Squid Games. He's going to be in it. So this is his first like English acting role, American acting
Hmm.
role. So that's going to be exciting. Yes, Mike says Jonas is in it. That means Wookiee. Yeah, very excited.
Didn't he dress up as his Wookiee Jedi
Yes,
character at the panel? Yeah, so
that's
that's
what I heard.
exciting.
I still I refuse to watch any leaked footage from that panel, so I'm going in completely fresh.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. I'm going in with knowing very, very, very little. Um, All right, with that in mind, we're also on the precipice of another big release on Disney Plus. X-Men 97 hits this Wednesday. And I want to say something before we jump into X-Men 97 because I am incredibly hyped about X-Men
So
97.
hyped,
Um,
so hyped.
there are two things that are ruining the hype at the moment. One, I remember what happened to Bad Batch when the Obi-Wan Kenobi show dropped and everyone stopped caring about Bad Batch. It's going to happen again. Like everyone just has to prepare yourself that like X-Men will dominate the conversation and Bad Batch will be the thing that people have to find time to watch maybe. So everyone just be aware of that because the world doesn't revolve around Star Wars. X-Men is a bigger property and it's going to suck for these first few weeks especially, and then we'll pick back up when we get to the finale. Now, we as a network have comprehensive programming. So if you want to stay on top of Bad Batch, we will still have the Bad Batch after show, the Bad Batch watch-alongs on Thursday. We are not giving up on that. We are not
Tuesday
doing X-Men
Zooms. Yeah.
coverage, but
Yeah.
everyone else on the internet will be doing X-Men coverage. So prepare yourself. So that's the thing to keep in mind. I feel like there's going to be a big drop off in Bad Batch chatter as the chatter shifts to X-Men. Also, there's one other thing sort of underscoring the return that is really problematic. The creator of the show has been released or parted ways. They're saying it's not a firing. We don't know the details. That being said, I haven't heard anything nefarious about anything, and usually in
Yeah.
these types of situations, if there were something really problematic, it would have leaked by now. Is my
Absolutely.
thought. Like we heard
Yeah.
rumors about the Kang stuff with the Jonathan Major stuff well in advance, and we have not heard anything like that regarding X Men '97. I don't want to speculate. Um, I'm also constantly keeping an ear out, but I have not heard anything other than that one official sentence from someone at Disney saying it was less of a firing and more of a parting of ways. That probably seems to me creative differences because, as you know, the studio has a very specific uh, creative vision, and then directors don't always align to that. And we've seen
Right.
directors come and go from projects, and they've said it just didn't line up. I wanted to
Right.
do this, they wanted me to do that. I wasn't going to do that. That happens quite frequently,
Mhm.
especially in the MCU. So it's not surprising to me that that is the like on paper the
Yeah.
reason that makes the most sense at the moment.
Yeah, and it was kind of sad because I followed him on Instagram and he had all the creative process going for the stories and he had, spearheaded most of he's a showrunner, so he'd spearheaded
Yeah,
season 1 and he had scripts started for season 2 and all that is gone. All that is completely gone. So,
yeah.
on his from
Well,
his Instagram because he completely wiped it. But
yeah. And
I
wouldn't you if you were in that circumstance?
yeah,
I mean,
understandable. It's like it was your property, but not, it wasn't your property, but it's something that you put so much of your heart into.
yeah.
So,
I
it's kind of
remind
sad.
people all the time because you're one of these, I'm one of these. I don't own Star Wars. None of us in this world own Star Wars. No one here owns Star Wars or Marvel or anything else. These are owned IP that are owned by Disney,
Right.
and we get to play in the sandbox for what limited time and whatever guardrails they put in front of us. Ashley has done artwork for Topps trading cards and other places. I have developed product at Topps and at Ruby's and wherever else. Like I'm given parameters. I'm in a box. You're allowed to do this. You can play with these particular properties, these characters, whatever. But I didn't like, and I'm creating, but I also didn't create the show. I didn't like invent the character of Luke Skywalker, right?
Right.
George Lucas did. So we're borrowing, we're renting. We're not
The
owning
love is
anything.
there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not our property.
Yeah.
Property.
Exactly.
We get
It's
to
like
play in the
it's hanging
sandbox,
out
but
with
we
a
don't own
cousin.
the toys.
So
Yes.
yeah, it's very that. With that in mind, I do think a lot of us have huge emotional connection to the original X-Men animated
Oh,
series, and
absolutely. It changed my life.
it's probably my all-time favorite '90s cartoon. I
Yes.
have to separate '80s from
That
'90s
and
because I grew up.
gargoyles. Yes.
Gargoyles is another one that like people just seem to. That one never got me, but everyone else I know is like obsessed with Gargoyles. I
Oh,
liked
I
it.
was love
Um,
gargoyles so much. It was
yeah.
like revisiting Star Trek. It was perfect.
Yeah, look, it's highly rated. X-Men, you know how sometimes you remember things fondly and then you go to
Yeah.
experience it now and you're like, what's this about? I gotta tell you, I think these episodes hold up. I rewatched
Mhm.
the entire series, and I've been doing it very slowly over the past several months, knowing that now that we've had like a date to plan to for March 20th, and now
Right.
I've started watching the recap videos that have come out. New Rockstars did a really long deep dive on their top episodes, and they did sort of a series wraparound. Screen Crush did a really comprehensive look at both the creation
Mhm.
of the show and the important themes and the main characters, and they did an episode ranking. There's been a lot of like listicles and a lot of like nostalgic look back. And across the board,
Yeah.
everyone says that like even watching it as an adult, it really holds up.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
agree with that. I agree.
I went out of my way to get every single volume when it came out on DVD because it was back then it was before Disney Plus and
Yeah.
it was the only way you could watch it and it was so hard to complete that set,
Yeah.
but I
I
did
had the
it.
VHS tapes when I was a kid. Like I
Ugh,
was one of those. And I taped them off
my mom
TV
wouldn't
too.
let me.
Yeah.
But my
Uh,
uncle my uncle did tape them off TV for us, so that
Yeah.
was cool.
I definitely did that in Power Rangers. I had them all on VHS tapes, like taped like a psycho. Because I was, it came out in
No
'92, so I
way.
was 11
You had
when.
something you loved,
Oh
man.
yeah, no, I was obsessed too because like you know what happens too? They did a lot of multi-part episodes in X-Men, and it'd be very easy to
Yeah.
watch Days of Future Past Part 1 and then somehow miss Part 2, and then you got to
I
wait for it to loop
always
back
did that.
around. Oh man,
Always, without
so
fail. It was like my
frustrating.
worst way of handling it, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Uncle, did you tape it?" And I'd have to run next door and watch it.
yeah.
But,
Uh, It's crazy the
honestly
stories they tackle though, right? They do Days of Future
yeah.
Past, they do Apocalypse, they go to Genosha, they deal with the
Mhm.
Sentinels, which really takes up the whole first season, right? The Sentinels and like all the struggle with like the US government. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy that their big
The
enemy is a
Friends of
senator.
Humanity
Yeah. Friends of
is
Humanity, which is basically your modern day KKK, like it's that. Um
absolutely
Rogue's
Trask.
dad. Rogue's
Ugh,
dad is I can't. Um
so
yeah,
much has changed in
I
25 years, kids.
Someone said you could watch this show today and be like, "Oh, this is happening today." And it's true. I mean, the X-Men
Yeah.
are a very heavy-handed metaphor for all oppressed groups, whether it's racism, misogyny, homophobia. Like they teach you very quickly that like hatred is the enemy, right?
Yep.
And even mutants who are fighting each other, who don't always agree on everything, understand that like the larger threat is like prejudiced people. So,
Right.
yeah.
No,
It's a look,
that
it's a great show. I hope
yeah.
everyone's going to tune in on Wednesday and don't forget Bad Batch. And
So
Bad Batch.
and
That's gonna
Bad
be the
Batch.
joke now. Make sure you tune in to X-Men '97 every Wednesday and Bad Batch. Like that's how it's gonna feel. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. Yeah, I do too, but I love them when I did watch them because I was just really psyched that they were tackling those stories and it just crazy, crazy fun.
yeah.
Um cuz I discovered the comics in the show at the same time.
Mhm.
So, like
And the comics were killer in the
oh
'90s, but they were
yeah,
even better in the '80s. Um,
absolutely. But I discovered like I bought my first comic in 1993 when I was 10 years old. So, like that completely changed my life. Rogan Gambit were my favorite characters, and having like Lenore Zahn do the con circuit and be at the premiere and be posting about it, and all these years later, she's back and in the trench coat having fun and from the clip that's been passed around on the internet, like throwing
mhm.
sentinels at the ground. It's like, oh, our girl is back. I'm so
Yep.
excited.
She's ready to kick some ass. And
Like
that's
I
what I
don't
love
think,
about the team. They
yeah,
are not to be trifled with, that
yeah.
crew. They have
Like
been
I
through it
don't
all.
Yes. I don't think you understand, like, my love for Rogue goes deep. I had Rogue hair for 4 years,
Mhm.
like 4 and a half, 5 years, and where I bleached the front of my hair and left, like, the rest, like, my
Oh, I
natural
totally
light
get
brown,
it.
and I was just the coolest thing I could have done with my hair, and if we had the power to, like, make our hair permanent, whatever we wanted, I would totally do that.
I love that. I look, everyone's got
Yeah,
their favorite mutant, everyone's got
yeah.
their faction. I am Team Magneto all the way. Like I
Ooh,
am like pure
interesting.
Hellfire. Like I'm all into it. Like I have no qualms with his approach
Mhm.
or his end game. And I know that sounds insane. But you watch back the show and he's right
Yeah,
so frequently. And the only time the X-Men really like prove him wrong is that there's like a glimmer of hope and like a moment of like they just barely skate by, but like he's typically right. And the fact that the series ends with so spoilers for the first 6 seasons of X-Men that will set up the premiere of X-Men '97. Charles Xavier has like an assassination attempt on his life by an angry bigoted senator who shoots him, and he nearly dies because it's some type of like I don't know, electromagnetic whatever it is, the whatever the MacGuffin is that he gets shot with like causes
yeah,
him to nearly die, and he has to contact Ylandra from the Dark Phoenix saga, like the girlfriend from space, to take him away. And he
yeah,
leaves. He like leaves Earth to go get healed. And it's silly. It seems like a death, right? They didn't actually want to kill him, but he's like literally getting dragged to space so that he doesn't die.
right,
And like Magneto was on the cusp of actually like getting ready to like take over the world in one of his ridiculous Pinky in the Brain esque kind of scams. But like he stops at that moment because like Charles is getting like whisked away, and he's like, "Well, I have to go deal with this right now." But like he was right that like the people turned, and by the people, a bigoted person turned against Charles Xavier, and so
right,
Xavier, in theory, could have been killed in that moment and never realized that like the peaceful coexistence of mutants and humans were possible. And I don't know if it ever will be. So
right.
I get
Yeah,
it. I also just find Magneto way more interesting. I think he's the most interesting character in the entire roster.
right. Excuse me. I feel like, the amount of people I've seen at conventions wearing Magneto Rose White t-shirts
Oh yeah.
has gone up over the years.
Yep. Especially as
But
we live in these type of times, right? Like I'm tired of
right.
compromising. And one of the episodes, they put up the episode list and it wasn't compromise. It was like it was something like compromise equals extermination, but it wasn't compromise. It was something else. It was like I'd have to look at the episode list again, but it was all about how like um they there isn't a lot of room on the mutant side to negotiate with the other side because their lives are on the line, you know? So anyway, I know we're talking a lot about X-Men. I
Yeah.
also promise that we're going to watch Bad Batch on Wednesday because Bad Batch has been
Yes.
delivering. Like it's
Oh,
been really, really good.
so
Those
much.
last two episodes barely featured Omega and Wrecker and like the core crew. He's got a little more time with uh not Cody. With Rex and like I'll say the Regs. Uh and it's really interesting to see what's brewing on their side because they have their own little internal rebellion brewing at the same
Yeah.
time. And everyone's questioning, like, should we be working for the
Wolf.
Empire?
Yeah, Sherry.
Yeah, Wolf. That's who it was. Yeah.
So
So,
I feel like, it's the beginnings of Fulcrum. Like it's
yeah.
they're starting to figure out that they can be useful in other ways and are kind of being the underground network for the
Yeah.
rebellion. So
We're gonna see it. I'm still telling you, I think it's gonna end poorly for all of them, except for the ones
ugh,
that we know we see for a fact in Star Wars Rebels.
Wolf,
You know,
Rex.
we're gonna
Yeah,
see Rex. All right.
Gregga.
Meanwhile, we're already at the halfway mark, and that was not our intention to talk this whole time about X-Men '97 and everything
Was it
else in
though?
the
No.
news. And one other thing I just wanted to plug in the pop culture before I forget. I still have not seen Dune because I was away all last week, and then over the
Uh,
weekend I just couldn't get to
dude,
it. So I'm gonna go this weekend.
good.
Um, but at the same time, I've got to go see Frozen Empire because Ghostbusters, right? I've
Yeah.
got the Ghostbusters license and I want to make sure I see what's up in this movie. And that red suit is calling my name.
Oh,
So,
that jacket is so cool.
yeah, I've got to get me one of those. And I saw the popcorn bucket for Ghostbusters is the Ghost Trap. That is a nice looking popcorn bucket. By the way, I'm not
Yep, we
really
see you,
a,
Lori.
hey, Lori, we see your name. Yay. I see Ruth Bader
Yay.
Ginsburg right there. So very
Yeah.
nice. Um,
Um, I've seen Dune 2 twice now, and
Twice.
yes, I went again on Sunday. No, sorry, Saturday night, and it was phenomenal the second time around too. So,
Yeah.
um, honestly, I cannot wait for Messiah, and I
It
honestly
hasn't
like.
been officially greenlit yet, but you know it's coming.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I can't imagine they're
it's
not gonna do
already
part
doing better
3.
than Dune 1, so
Yeah, it's gonna
I'm
definitely
excited.
beat out Dune 1. My assumption is that it'll cross, like, 700 million worldwide at this point. It's definitely beating my original projection. I think I said it would do closer to 5.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's gonna be closer to 7 when all is said and done because the IMAX screenings are bringing in big numbers,
Mhm.
and everyone's loving it. Look, it's a good movie. I liked the first one a lot.
Yeah.
My concern was that if you saw the first one at home, do you need to see the second one at in the theater? And people are going. People are treating
Mm.
this like an event, which is
It
what we need to get back
is.
to. Like movies
Yeah.
need to be an event, not a chore.
And as Mike said, there's so much more details that you just notice, and between like the cinematography,
Hmm.
um, the CG, the just everything about it is just it's so good, so good. So I
Yeah,
really think you'll like it.
yeah, excellent. All right, let's jump into our Rebels topic for the night, which is the best of season 2.
Hmm.
Now, I was struggling with this one for the best possible reason, and that it is hard to figure out what isn't the best about season
Oh,
2.
I
The
know.
the whole season is just a series of bangers, and especially on a rewatch where we know how it all ends, even the things that seemed only okay in the moment or weird or like we'll use the F word filler, um, turns out to all be meaningful, useful, develops characters, either advances like the meta plot that we weren't aware of or sets something up long term. Like it is just a jam-packed season. Um, Across the board, I'm going to let Ashley cough. I'll keep talking. So I want to say across the board, I mean, I'm going to go through the list real quick of the episodes, and then we'll come into each one. So it starts off
Okay.
with Siege of Lethal, which really opens up the world for us. Like after season one with Fire Across the Galaxy, we go back to Lethal, and Vader arrives. Minister Tua dies. Like it is a setup where things are getting real.
Yeah.
And then we meet Rex and the rest of the clone crew and the Lost Commanders and relics of the Old Republic in episode 4. We get the awesome Ahsoka and Rex reunion, and this is after Ahsoka
Yay.
had her little traumatizing moment where she encounters Vader, but she doesn't know it's Anakin just yet.
Yeah.
Then the Inquisitors hit the scene in Always Two. There are. We get to the Brothers of Broken Horn, um, where we meet Hondo Onaka. Hondo's back.
Yes.
Wings
Love
of the
him.
Master, where Hera gets the B Wing. Blood Sisters, where we get more backstory on Sabine, where she meets up with, oh my
Ketsu.
God, Ketsu. Yep, I was blanking on the name for a second. Um, Stealth Strike, where we see where we see Kanan and Rex work together because they had all that distrust, with being a clone and being a Jedi. The Future of the Force, which is one of my favorite episodes, where Ahsoka has to take on the fifth brother and the seventh sister in that awesome lightsaber
Oh, it's
fight,
so
where they're
good.
chasing down the
So
younglings.
good.
Um, Legacy, where we find out about what happened to Ezra's parents, which is really sad. A Princess on Lethal, starring the awesome Julie
Leia.
Dolan,
Love
and our,
Julie.
our friend of the show, Julie Dolan. Um,
Love her. She's phenomenal.
Fantastic. Protector of Concord Dawn, which is the introduction of well, we get all the backstory on Mandalore, and it's
And
Fen
Fenn
Rao who's
Rao. Yeah.
introduced in that episode. Legend
Played
of
by
the
Kevin
Lasat,
McKidd. Yep.
yep, who's awesome. Legends of the Lasat, which gives us the backstory on Zeb's people. We find out they're not exterminated. Oh my God, The Call, which is the Purgle episode, which at the time I remember thinking, what the hell is this? And now you think 2.5 years before the finale, they're setting it up, right? They're like teeing it up for us. And then season 16 is Homecoming, where they go to Ryloth, and that's where Hera has to deal with her dad, Cham Syndulla. Episode 17 is the Honorable Ones, which is Zeb and Callus, and
A
they're like the
big
sort of
episode.
bottle episode.
Yeah.
Shroud of Darkness is just one of the best of the entire series, where it's the Jedi Temple on Lothal being infiltrated by the Inquisitors while Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka are inside. And in that episode, Ezra talks to Yoda, Kanan gets knighted, and Ahsoka realizes that Anakin and Vader are the same person, and they all get their mission to go to Malachor.
Yeah.
Holy hell, that episode! That episode alone is worth the whole
Intense.
season.
Yeah.
Forgotten Droid, which I think you guys just watched,
Love
was
it.
it's Chopper and AP5 joins the crew, and then
Yes, she
Mystery of
does.
Chopper Base, where we go to Adelon and encounter the giant spiders, and then Twilight of the Apprentice, which is probably the calling card for the entire series, like the greatest 2 episodes of any Star Wars animation project. I mean, this season doesn't have a bad episode.
Yeah, there's no such thing as filler in this. Like even when you have like funnier things happen, they always lead to more. And
Yeah.
and ah,
And
I
even something
honestly
like
can't think of a bad one
no,
or a
even the
boring one.
call is not
Yeah,
bad. It's just weird and doesn't make sense. And then it
right.
makes sense 2 years later in the best way. So, yeah, I love this season for so many reasons. All right, some of the other big things that happen. Ahsoka is integrated into the crew, right? Because we meet her at the end of Fire Across the Galaxy. And then she makes it all the way to Twilight and has her big fight with Vader, right? So this is a sequel to the Clone Wars, right? Ahsoka's back. Rex is back. Ahsoka versus Vader, the showdown we've been waiting for. Anakin Skywalker in a hologram. Like we get a lot of Sith stuff as well. We get new Inquisitors. Sarah Michelle Gellar, who I love. I've worshipped her, love her,
Love her.
fantastic in the role. Philip Anthony Rodriguez, another friend of the show, playing the fifth brother. How cool is the fifth brother?
He is tough. That man is a tank
Yeah,
and
scary
probably
looking.
terrifying. Yeah.
In real life, he would be like triple our size, right?
Yeah,
Like it would be
easily.
so scary. Yeah, Spencer's quote, I am no Jedi. Like this season gave us so many moments. The dark side really shines in season 2 because we get Vader popping in, the Inquisitors running amok, the return of Maul, which no one saw
Mhm.
coming. Like and
Nope.
then like the big fight on Malachor. I feel like everything just lines up for the dark side, including at the end when Ezra gets that holocron, right? And the only way you can open it is by tapping into the dark side, and it
Mm,
opens at the end of the season.
yeah.
It is a moment. So the dark side, it's very Empire Strikes Back, right? We're in a middle season. The dark side's winning. They're doing a pretty good job. They took down Ahsoka. They blinded Kanan. Ezra's being corrupted. Things ain't going great for our Rebels Ghost crew.
Yeah, it's probably like a tough one for them emotionally because it sets up so much chaos for season 2. So as you said, we got Kanan blind, we got Ahsoka possibly dead, as for all
Mhm.
we know. Um, the holocron, the Sith holocron, is in Ezra's possession. Is he going to turn to the dark side? So and Vader at his
Mhm.
scariest for all intents and
So
purposes.
scary. Yeah.
Um, yeah, things look dark, my friends.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy because the trajectory of season 1 was we started in a relatively hopeless place and we were learning more and it seemed like we were making progress. And you get to fire across the galaxy and the good guys not only win, they kill the Grand Inquisitor and we reveal Ahsoka Tano, and Ezra and Kanan have never been closer, and they really feel like they achieved something. Like Bail Organa saves the day and we learn there are more rebels. It's so full of hope, right? Which is always
Yeah.
like a key word in Star Wars. It's hopeful. And you start season 2 and Siege of Lothal doesn't hold back. Out of the gate, Vader appears on the scene and kills how many TIE fighter, no, X-Wing fighter pilots, right? Just start one out of the like they
Yeah.
lose like a whole fleet, and Ahsoka is like knocked unconscious by the connecting with Vader, and it immediately turns into like the Thal is under siege, hence the title. Minister Tua, who we thought was a big bad, turns out to be she ain't nobody, right? She's dead in a second. Like it gets
Nope.
for real quick and really scary. And the whole season goes from like this incredible high point of the end of season 1 to this understanding just how big and scary the world is. And you just keep going down throughout season 2 of like it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. I mean, they destroy the Jedi Temple on Lothal.
Yeah.
Like it's people forget that like the Jedi Temple gave them so much, right? We got the crystal for Ezra, the connection to Yoda, the Jedi Temple Guard, which was sort of the Grand Inquisitor, knighting Kanan. So much happens for them in that space, and then the Inquisitors destroy it. They can
Yeah.
never go back.
It's yeah, it's a dark time, but I also feel like there, as you said, there are moments of hope where you get Callus realizing that the Empire does not care and everything he hung his
Hmm.
hopes on does not exist because they would have left him there for dead
Yeah,
and they wouldn't have known to come get him or
yeah,
cared at all.
and
So that unlike Minister Tua, he was able to get out successfully in season 3. However,
hmm
so
yeah,
that
it's
it sets up a lot more for season 3, both good and bad.
It's
Um,
very much a setup for like I think about season 3 and overall season 3 feels somehow even darker than season 2. Like season 2 is a long descent down and then
mhm,
season 3 holds you down there the entire time cuz Thrawn
right.
appears, Governor Price appears. So everyone is scarier right off the bat. Like somehow we replace inquisitors
Absolutely.
with like humanoids that are even scarier, right?
Mhm.
And they feel somehow more hopeless, even though the team is stronger. Like Ezra's powers get really strong in season 3. Kanan's blind, but feels like even more adept with the Force, but they don't have
Yeah,
Ahsoka. They're trapped on Adelon. They're trapped. Like they're on Chopper Base, but like they can't go anywhere or do anything. Like they're constantly under threat. It feels like they're trapped on Hoth, right? Like it's that same idea.
right.
Um, and so season 3 feels a lot like Empire Strikes Back as well, just as hopeless. And then they lose in the final battle in season 3 because Thrawn trounces them, right? And they barely escape. And Sato dies. Like it's really
Oh,
terrible. And then it sets up season 4 to be like, this is the end game, and it's all or nothing, and not all of you are making it out alive. And
right.
on both sides, like there are casualties. I do want to answer Mike's question real quick about the temple on Lothal being an entryway to the world between worlds. I don't think that's 100% accurate. My understanding is the world between worlds for like people to get into it can happen in specific places, and the mural, when used correctly, could let a person into the world between worlds. Yes, but Yoda was able to use some type of experience within the world between worlds to send Ezra the crystal. I realize that that's not, I'm like splitting hairs there, but I
Yeah.
don't think you could have used the world between worlds to like get into the world between worlds, the Lothal Temple. Is my understanding, if I'm understanding Dave correctly, which who knows if I'm understanding Dave correctly. Like this is all nonsense, right?
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
feel I honestly I feel like any Jedi temple could, when used correctly, they could kind of use it to reach out through the
You can
force.
find people through the force, I think,
Yes.
but I don't know if you can enter that thing that we saw in the episode where Ezra's
Right.
walking on the paths, like
Right.
the literal pathways. Which it seems like Ahsoka was maybe in that in the Ahsoka TV show, like the water she fell into may have brought her into that, which
Yeah.
also wasn't 100% clearly explained. But I'm also kind of okay with that. Like I don't need crystal clear explanations for like weird force stuff, right? Like
Yeah. Freaky
freaky
force
force
shit.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. No.
exactly. So, yeah. So this season, along with there it is, freaky force stuff. Um, Along with all of the freaky force stuff, which we get a lot of, right? There's a lot of dark side magic usage. The battle on Malachor is like every lightsaber imaginable, like
Oh
fighting
yeah.
to the death.
Yep.
We also get a lot of good backstory on the rest of the crew. Like there's some good call outs specifically for Zeb. He gets two episodes really to himself, right? He gets the honorable ones, which is the showdown with Callus, which again sets up a major turn for Callus for season 3, and into the finale to season 4. And then the Legend of the Lasad, where this entire time we've believed that Zeb is the only one of his species that's left alive, and it turns out there's like a whole group of them out there in a secret hyperspace lane living on a whole other planet. So that's really good development for him. He gets like sort of 2 dedicated episodes just for
Yeah.
Zeb.
Yeah, and we don't get very many Zeb-centric episodes in this series. So the
Yeah.
fact that we have it in season 2 is just awesome.
Yeah, and the
And
fact
they're
that they
important.
tether him a little bit to Callus, I think, is good because he needs like more to his story. The same way when we dive a little bit deeper into Sabine, they add in these supporting characters for her, like the other Mandalorians. We meet Fen Rao in the Protector of Concord Dawn. We understand that there's like really complex political nonsense with
Gar
Mandalore, right? Which
Saxon,
is
yeah.
like, yeah, we get all the bullshit with Mandalore, right? Like how long have these people been fighting each other? Like
Yeah, they're
it's
their own worst enemies at this point.
yeah. And let me tell you, like there at some point it's like, oh, just kill each other already. I'm annoyed by you.
Yeah.
Like that's how it feels like to be rooting for the Mandalorians, right? Like you sort of want them all to lose sometimes.
Ugh.
Those episodes are like annoying, and then we get a lot more of this. This is just the planting of the seed, right? Like this gives you the first glimpse that like there's a much bigger Mandalorian world that we need to explore. And if you watch the Clone Wars, you would know that. But like here, we're dipping our toe into Rebels territory with it, and then we go huge with it in season 3 and season 4 when we get all of
Absolutely.
Sabine's backstory. The dark saber pops up. Like season 2 sets tease all of that up, right, for her to like knock it out in season 3.
It does. Yeah, she undergoes a lot of growth in season 3, and I feel like it's her episodes with Hera, just kind of like learning how to trust each other, really set the groundwork for Sabine to be in the spotlight more in season 3. So
Mhm. She's such a player in season 3. Like I
yeah.
can't imagine the season without her. Season 3 is like weirdly scattered. Like season 2 has all the things I just listed, but it feels so linear to go
Hmm.
from Siege of
Agreed.
Lothal to Twilight of the Apprentice. Like it feels like Ahsoka has entered the chat, Ahsoka has
She
exited the
has.
chat. Oh, speaking of Ahsoka, like and the way in which we got there was we have to deal with all the Inquisitors, and
Hmm.
along the way, we're going to find out little bits and pieces of everyone else. But there's like an Inquisitor through line, a dark side through line, an understanding of the Force and how the Force has brought us here, and this larger rebellion, as opposed to this tiny little cell on Lethal. Like
Yeah.
season 2 feels perfectly mapped out. And then you
Hmm.
get to season 3 and we have a little bit of everything happening. You meet Saw
Yeah.
Gerrera, you get backstory with Mandalore, we get more of the rebellion situation. We're trapped on Adelon. We're dealing with Thrawn. Like it feels a little more hodgepodgey.
And
Season
also
3,
desperate. Yeah.
it's still great, but it's
Yeah.
also not as like I feel like planned in some ways. Like
Yeah.
season 2 just feels so perfectly structured. Like every episode flows neatly into the next one while
Yeah.
not being predictable. But on rewatch, it's like, oh, this makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. Um, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I feel like they had ideas and they just kind of plugged them in
Hmm.
where they thought they should go in season three, which is fine because season three is still like, as I
Yeah,
feel, it's their most desperate hour
yeah,
for this. So
yeah. Twin Sons.
yeah,
I joke my Forrest Gump episode. They just find their
yeah,
way to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
yep,
Why not? Like you could do a whole season about exploring the dark side with Maul, right?
yeah,
He actually would have made more sense probably in season 2 in a bigger way before we got to Malachor, or if it didn't end with Twilight. Like
right,
there are things that sort of continue and make sense. And then does Thrawn need to be there? Like maybe not yet. Do we, when do you need him? Is he the antagonist to Sato? Like that
right.
feels, they're all those types of questions. But that being said, I think season 2 maps out perfectly. We get these mid-tier like dark side users, the seventh sister, the fifth brother, who are horrifying to a
Mhm.
Padawan and a Jedi out of practice, and certainly anyone who's not a Force user. But they're not Darth Vader. They're close, but they're like under Vader, and yet because there's two of them, they seem more threatening than just the Grand Inquisitor. They've got a lot of personality, and then while we're chasing them, they're chasing the ghost down constantly. We're also headed toward this like big Ahsoka realization, like the fate of Anakin Skywalker, which is what the whole damn franchise is about. It's all about this one
Yeah,
annoying boy, like who made a bunch of stupid mistakes. Like this is all Anakin's fault. So and it's like, why are
always
we all here
yeah,
right now? This is all his doing. So
yeah,
we have to go resolve that mess.
yeah. Always cleaning up after Anakin. Come on now.
It's always something. I
Yeah.
will say that moment though in Twilight where it's like Vader on top of the X-wing with his cape blowing, like super drama queen, like right there, the most dramatic bitch in all of Star Wars. Like he's the best.
Like that tops out with like, okay, thinking about it, he turned off his chest plate to be quiet in that
Mhm.
tunnel in Rogue One, and then turned it on and then turned his lightsaber on just to
Yeah,
be scary
holding
as
his
hell
breath. Yeah, he's
to these
like
people.
he's got all
So
he's Anakin
drama.
Skywalker. He's very he knows how to make an entrance. That's for sure.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, I don't think that Vader being in the show takes away from the ghost. That's the
No.
thing that's the craziest, right? I'm looking at this poster. This is the season 2 poster, by the way, the one that I have signed by many, many people over here. That's the graphic
Yeah.
that's surrounding us right there. That's the artwork that Jeff took and turned into this awesome overlay. I love this poster. And what's nuts is the size of Vader and his actual presence in the show is like relatively limited. The ghost of Vader is there. None of it takes away from Ezra, Kanan, Ahsoka, anything. If
Absolutely.
anything,
Yeah.
it like somehow elevates them. Like it makes them feel more in the Star Wars universe, even though they can never take on Vader and they sort of lose to him handily. They do escape. Ahsoka saves the day. At what cost, right? Is the big question. Um, but I think this lends a lot of credibility to what the Ghost is capable of doing.
Absolutely. I think this is where they find their place in the larger scheme of things in season two.
Hmm.
And as we've talked about in past episodes, Kanan is reluctant because he's used to being small time and not wanting to be part of something greater because he knows what happens when that goes awry, being a former
Hmm.
Jedi Padawan. Um, but he learned so much both from Hera and from the people around him that even the smallest things can have the biggest impact. So this is the last time they think that small and they start thinking bigger about the whole galaxy in this rebellion. So it's the growth of things to come.
Yeah, they're expanding their world and their worldview. Kanan overcomes his concern of working with clones. And honestly, Wolf, one of the
Yeah.
clones, was concerned about working with Kanan. He's like, he's going to kill us, and rightfully so. And I was like,
Yeah.
I get it. Like, there's concern on both sides. Rex and Ahsoka are like this. And we have to assume still like this, despite what had happened in Order 66. We hadn't seen Clone Wars season 7 yet, so we didn't really have like a full
Right.
story to that.
Yeah.
But like he still spoke about Ahsoka in a way that was like, we know that things didn't go poorly with them. Um, and so I trusted Rex. Immediately,
Yeah.
I as a viewer was like, Rex is there. I'm in whatever's happening. I'm sure that he found a way not to try to kill Ahsoka, and we knew Ahsoka was alive, so that's a
They
good
made
thing.
him in
You know.
such a way. Now, when I watched Rebels, Rebels was the first Star Wars animated project that I had seen. I didn't start with Clone Wars. So when we met Rex on the show, I immediately trusted him, even
Hmm.
though like I hadn't seen him before. I had no idea what he was capable of. I didn't know if he was going to turn his back on her or just go rogue and traitor them out. Um, but I immediately trusted him, and I think they made him so you could see that he valued Ahsoka and Ahsoka what Ahsoka thought, and if these people were working with her, and they recommended that he be sought out by them,
Hmm.
then he was to be trusted.
Yep. And then he becomes an important member of the team. We keep Rex in the main crew. And we just did a best of Rex a few weeks ago, by the way, if you guys
Yep.
want to check that out. He stays with the Ghost crew all the way through the series finale. So he's
Yeah.
with them throughout the wackiness of season 3.
Hmm.
He's part of the crew that helps liberate Lothal in season 4. He's there the whole time. He doesn't actually like get resolution with Ahsoka, unfortunately, because I don't think Ezra ever tells him that, like, oh, by the way, Ahsoka's alive in the world between worlds. Guess what? I don't think that ever happens. I don't think he tells anyone that he saw Ahsoka in the world between worlds, but um, other than maybe Kanan would have been gone at that point. But like, that's the kind of thing where despite not having Ahsoka there,
Yeah.
Rex still adopts the Ghost crew as his family and feels like he's integrated right in. And it seems really seamless. So
Yeah.
I like what they do where the crew expands, but it feels organic. It feels earned. I like the addition of AP5. I like having
Yeah.
Rex added, and they all add to the mix. They don't take away from
Ryder
anyone.
Azadi. Yeah.
Yep, he's terrific. I'm glad they bring him back from season 1.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just overall really well executed, which is not true for every project at any company.
Hmm.
But I think especially within animation, which is done so far in advance, and then if you're trying to pivot and adjust to something, like
Yeah.
you can sometimes see the the adjustments in real time, real life. I think season 2 is like as close to perfect as you get within Rebels for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you want linear storytelling, but with like the right amount of things added to it, season two is for you.
Yeah. I put together like what I thought was a ranking list, but honestly, I think they're all like I think season 2 has a pretty it's pretty much unskippable.
Yeah.
But I do want to put together at least like some rankings according to the internet. We all know that Twilight of the Apprentice is the highest rated episodes of the entire series. And if you go on IMDb, um, Twilight of the Princess Part 1 has a 9.3 and Twilight of the Princess Part 2 has a 9.8. Like those are some heavy, heavy numbers to
Yeah.
compete against, right? These are some of the highest rated episodes in like all of television, truly. And Shroud of Darkness, don't skip that one, 9.0 out of 10. Shroud of Darkness is the one we've already talked about at length with the Inquisitors destroying the temple, and where Ezra gets his crystal and Kanan gets knighted, and Ahsoka realizes that Vader is Anakin. Like, this is huge. The honorable ones I actually think is a little bit underrated at an 8.3. I think that's a 9.0 episode.
Oh yeah, totally.
Even Homecoming, which is a 7.3 on here, I think is still an A minus episode. Like maybe it's an 8.5. The Call has a 7.1, and I got to be honest, I think The Call is better than a 7. Like these are all very strong showings across the board.
Yeah.
Future of the Force is an 8.5. Um, the lowest one on here is Blood Sisters at a 6.8, which is weird, but like
Yeah, that's weird.
even yeah, that one should be higher. Always Two There Are is a 7.7. I would say that should be a little bit higher. And I think Siege of Lothal being at an 8.8 and an 8.3, part 1 and part 2,
Hmm.
I would maybe put them both closer to a 9. I think they're excellent episodes, and Vader really shines. The whole crew The whole crew is great. Um, there's just so many good things that happen across the whole season that it's hard to even pinpoint like a top moment or whatever. But we
Yeah.
did try to put together like some top moments. I will say without a doubt, Twilight Apprentice 1 and 2, which we've talked about at length in other episodes of the show. Ahsoka versus Vader is the fight of fights, like not to be missed. It is the thing. If you've watched nothing else from Clone Wars or
Yeah.
Rebels, you've probably seen this fight in a meme on Instagram. Somewhere has talked about it. Someone has done essays about it. Like you go on and on about Ahsoka versus Vader, and you would never be wrong. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Um, and the other big fight in there, Kanan, Maul, Ezra, and Ahsoka versus the fifth brother, the seventh sister, and the eighth brother.
Yeah.
Um, that is a lightsaber fight not to be missed as well.
Definitely not. This season had its share of epic battles and things like that. And I feel like the battle between Ahsoka and Vader is definitely earned. Like we've been waiting since she left the Jedi Temple
Yeah.
to see how that would happen, see how they would come across each other. And it was long before season 7 of Clone Wars was released. So this was like our first taste of that. And then we get the tragedy of what happens in season 7. Um, but I have to say, like this went even better than I had expected.
hmm
And it was riveting television. Like I remember DVRing it just so I could just watch it again immediately because it was
Yeah.
just so much to take in.
I
And
was a
commercial breaks, I was just
licensee.
like, fast forward,
Yeah. I was a licensee, and I think this was during the time where I was definitely doing trading card giveaways on Friday nights. Like I would watch
Yeah.
the East Coast feed, and I would sometimes just give away cards. And I did that for part of season 1. And I remember like live tweeting "Fire Across the Galaxy," and then the Ahsoka Lives things happened, and I was like, "Oh no, I can't tweet that." And but of course, it was already trending on Twitter like that, right? Like it wasn't
Yeah.
my fault, but I was there when it
It
happened.
wasn't
And then
you.
for season 2, I was a little more gun shy, but like I remember watching Twilight as it happened, and I like lost my mind. And the thing at the
Yeah.
very end too is you actually see Ahsoka like walking away, even though you think she might have died in that fight, because Vader's walking away on the outside. Morai is flying around. Ahsoka is like walking deeper into the temple, and you're like, "What happened? Tell
Yeah,
me what
this makes
happened."
no
Like
sense.
I
Why?
know, and I didn't understand what was going on, and I think I mean, the answer came 2 years later, which that's
Yeah.
another thing. This is so planned out
Yeah.
that I kinda can't believe it worked. Like, the fact that a year 2 seasons later, the World Between World episode, it's not a retcon, like, that's how they planned it, was that Ezra was gonna do this to, save Ahsoka, and bring her back into, like, the regular timeline. Like, that's just insane to me. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I got
it's
my
I don't know.
hands on every Dave Filoni sketch shirt that her universe
Yeah.
put out of this because it was
Yeah.
just so phenomenal and I was really
Yep.
excited about it. But again, like I know it was planned out, but it was just really weird. And I just sat there like, why is she walking away? Is she walking into death? Like, what does this mean? And I was just
Yeah.
completely
Everyone
lost.
thought it was a metaphor.
Yeah.
And then we did a card set based on Dave's artwork,
Hmm.
that we did in the Card
Loved
Trader
it.
app, and it seemed like she was moving to the afterlife or whatever it was, and around the border was the wolves, the door of the wolves, and I was like,
Yeah.
we were trolled a year and a half. It's kind of crazy, and yeah, it sets up like her to return in World Between Worlds. It also reinforces the fact that Ahsoka really is the glue of Star Wars now. It was Luke Skywalker, and now it's Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And I realize that might be a controversial statement, but like they just keep
No, you're
inserting her
absolutely
into
right.
various things. It's like super important during the Clone Wars with Anakin Skywalker, super important during the Rebels years when we're building up Ezra and
Now,
Princess Leia and Bail and everyone
yeah.
else. Like, she was one of the most important people for Padme and for Anakin, and then for Bale and for Leia. Like,
Yeah.
and now she's hanging out with Luke in the Mandalorian time frame. Like, this girl's everywhere. Like, she's Forrest Gump, it turns out. So
I know, right? No, I honestly get you. And I remember like I was doing an Ahsoka piece to try to get into Celebration Chicago in the art show. And I was told that Ahsoka pieces wouldn't sell and I should kind of steer clear of it. But that
which is
was a
ridiculous.
big year for Ahsoka. They had that Tano shirt with her Montreal designs on the
Mhm.
sleeves. from her universe. That was a big seller. Whatever Ahsoka Prince they did have were going like crazy. It was just after Rebels ended. So Ahsoka Lives. That was a big deal. Um, Clone Wars season 7 was announced. So that was a big deal. Just so much had happened, and that was really where it began to take off for her.
Yeah.
And just having her as a character just became lucrative, and they finally saw it.
It definitely took a minute,
Yeah.
but I was championing from the beginning, and
Yes,
Rebels
you
as
were.
well. And I gotta say,
Yeah.
season 2, I think really they found their stride.
Yep.
In season 2, it's a slightly longer season than season 1, and I think across the board it might be the best reviewed season as well as most
Mhm.
people's favorite. Because season 2 is still like kind of fun, and of course because Ahsoka's in it and we get
Yeah.
Vader and everything else. There's a lot of Clone Wars connectivity, so you're getting those fans. Season 3 takes, I think, like a hard left. Like it's gets really dark and in some ways very depressing. And Saw Gerrera is your guest star, along with Mon Mothma, who I love, love, love. But like
Yeah.
Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera are very grounded and very political. And
Mhm.
this season is very force driven. Like it's very magic and very weird. And so when you compare those side by side, there's definitely a preference for one or the other. I actually prefer the weird and wacky, but I love my Mon Mothma, as you know. But like I just love season 2. I think season 2 like
Yeah.
cannot be beat. So I highly recommend if anyone in the chat has somehow, how are you watching our show and not watch season 2 of Star Wars Rebels? I don't know. Either way,
Crazy.
that I'm sure that's not the case, but like our rewatch list for you would be obviously Twilight, Siege of Lothal, Shroud of Darkness, Future of the Force, Always Two There Are. The honorable ones, Protector of Concord Dawn, Homecoming. You want to make sure you get a little bit of flavor from each of the characters. I
Yeah.
think The Call is a must watch because of the finale. Like
Yep.
we did a rewatch of that I think like right after the Purgles appeared on Ahsoka
Yep.
or in Mando, we
Mhm.
watched The Call. And I remember thinking like, wow, this shit is weird. Like even even back then, like it didn't get any less weird.
Nope. It did not. But you know
Yeah,
what? That's Star Wars. Star Wars is weird. It's
yeah,
it's the best of the weird. So,
yeah, for sure.
and anyone who
Um,
says differently does not understand the premise.
yeah, it's meant to be like space wizard stuff. Like don't think too hard about it.
Come on.
As we overanalyze everything.
Oh yeah.
But let's go through what's happening on the network this week because you have some big news for Wednesday.
Yeah, so Jamie and I are doing a little Batu episode on Daughters of the Galaxy. So we're just covering our favorite stuff on Batu. I know many of you will be joining the VCN on the family vacation, and you'll be getting to visit Batu West. So this will be our favorites from there. I have spent time in both Batu West and East, and Jamie like frequents East.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
she
it
lives there
yeah.
basically.
So she's moved herself into Doc Ondar's spare office and visits quite often. So
Yeah,
we're going to be
it would
going
be
over all our
dangerous
favorite
if I
things.
lived that close to there.
Oh
Like
my
that's the
god.
concern.
Can
Yeah,
you imagine? Like
yeah.
I'm kind of glad I don't.
It's
Like
my husband's dream.
I already
So
have this. So it's
yeah.
yeah, oh god, it's my dream too. Thank you, Jason. So we'll be going over that and just getting to hear from you and what are your favorite spots on Batu. So make sure you join us
Mhm.
for that.
Yeah,
And
and
we
then
oh go ahead.
also on the network, we've got the Thursday night watch along. So we'll be covering the latest episode of Bad Batch on Thursday. And of
Yay.
course, that's true for the Bad Batch after show as well, with John and Mike and Bryce. And that show is fun because they get into all the details.
Mhm.
I watched one episode and it was the two-parter, and you know when, like, it's kinda still going and I'm like, "Oh, I gotta get some analysis on this." Like, our after show is just as good as Screen Crush. Like, so,
Absolutely.
these boys know what they're talking about, so if you're looking for that, like, deep analytical conversation, um, that's the place to be. Um, you don't necessarily need to leave the network, which is nice. And then we've got a new episode of the Unifying Force on Sunday. They have not revealed their topic because they try to stay. So the thing about the Unifying Force is they try to stay like close to what's happening in pop culture, and they'll often come up with their idea like the day before or sometimes the day of. Like they have a list of ideas that are always brewing, and I'm in that chat, and so every now and then I'll see all these ideas flying back and forth. I was like, "I like that. I like that." It's like, "Oh, go record that one," and then something will
Yeah.
happen. Like this week, I think with the Acolyte dropping the poster, I can see the wheels spinning. That like, should they do something about dark side users? Like that's
So
how
good.
quick that they are in the. Even though they pre-record, they're probably the one that's like closest to what's going on in the news.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, so Dave and Kat and Geo will be announcing soon what their topic is for this Sunday.
Yeah, and of course we'll be in the Zoom chat tomorrow discussing the Acolyte trailer on the VCN Happy Hour. So don't miss that. Join us, dish, stress out with us because this is going to be some darkness, and I'm excited for it. I don't find myself usually getting excited about dark side stuff, but there's just something about this that's very intriguing to me because I'm light side all the way, but this is just like you never get to see it from this standpoint. Like
Yeah,
an era of peace and when everything goes bad.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to uh, see how fans respond to this because if the protagonists are bad guys, like that's a little bit different than what Disney usually plays in, and how much of an anti-hero versus villain can you make your lead character? Or is
Yeah,
the lead going to be a good guy, but like the villain is everyone's favorite? Like that's going to be the question. Or is it someone who turns from good to bad? Like I have so many questions, and I'm glad they're answering none of it. I just want to enjoy the ride. I'm
I
actually like
know.
really tired of speculating, and it's actually become exhausting. There's something about the internet culture now where we have to speculate on everything and then put our wish lists out there, and then people go back and get disappointed by the thing that they were never promised, and
But I
that's
feel
a
like we did
problem.
that when we were a kid too. Like we would talk about it with your friends and talk about it in the office before the internet.
Mhm.
And it was just something that we didn't quite do as publicly. So
Yeah, there was no record, I guess. But I also wasn't like I remember when Lost was on air. We had theories, but none of us were like coming together like this, recording like a whole series of stuff, being like, well, I
right.
better get this, and this. It was more about what the hell's happening in that hatch? What are you things down there? Why is there a
Always
polar
about the
bear?
hat. Yeah. What's
Yeah,
up with the polar bear? What's
yeah.
that cloud? Yeah.
Which the polar bear they explained at least, but like there's a lot of stuff that they just sort of like left on
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, unanswered questions there," or they gave you like sort of a half-assed answer, and I was like, "That's it?"
You
Like
really
this,
didn't think this through.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when we learned about the tailies, and I was like, "Oh my god, there were more people on the plane." That was mind-blowing, and that sent me. I
Yeah.
was like, "This is awesome. Like this show knows what they're doing." And then it turns out they don't know what they're doing. They're just making up more shit because like they've dug themselves too far down where
Yeah.
they've run out of mystery to solve. And then they just like went off the rails in the final two seasons, which
Ugh,
it's something
I
you
know.
gotta sort of love it or hate it. It's kind of like True Blood. Like True Blood was never great. True Blood was fun in a way that felt great for the first like 3 seasons, and then it just like it just kept getting worse and worse, but I still kept
Yeah.
watching because I was like, "Oh, it's
Same.
vampires and it's fun and it's sexy and it's like kind of gay." And like that's kind of enough, right? Like
Oh no, it
the
was
bar
gay.
is low. I was like, "Oh, there's a gay character. The bar is low. I'll tune in." And then in the final season, it was such a slog. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Like ended already. Stake me in the heart. Like you
Yeah.
don't want to become exhausted with your show. And yeah, the Lilith stuff made no sense, Lori. It was like, ugh. Um,
I'm
but
still
yes,
having trouble with Marianne the Maynard. Season 2 was just rough for me.
yes, I
Rough.
agree. I think like we didn't also need witches, and I think that's part of
Yeah.
it. We already had vampires and werewolves enough. Like
Although
at some
it gave
point, we're
us
running out
Janina
of.
Gavankar, so I'm
Oh
excited
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
she's great. Like she could have been a werewolf, like or a vampire. Like vampire. There's so many. Here's the thing: I can't go solve True Blood. And by the way, I did see something about because there's no such thing as a new idea anymore. That like vampires are they're considering doing a new True Blood or a reboot or something, and I was like, oh my god, there's so many iterations of vampires. What haven't we done with that genre?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Lori, the answer is both. Team Eric and Team Bill. Here's the thing: if I really had to choose, I love Alexander Skarsgård. I like blondes, and he's tall. But like, how can you pick? Like,
Yeah.
Suki was stupid. She should have been like, "Hello, we could just live as a polyamorous couple. You guys are vampires, right? Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing here? Why are we like dealing with like monogamy and heteronormativity when you're literal demons. Like, this is stupid. So
Yeah,
that's the
right.
kind of like problem solving we need to bring to these shows. And there's a
Yeah.
werewolf in the mix too. We're talking about Joe Manganiello. How can anyone be picked over Joe Manganiello? And yet he's my bronze medal winner. Like, that's what's so nuts. That's how many
I
sexy people were
know.
on this show. It made no sense.
Too
Like,
much.
the ugliest
Makad
person on the
Brooks.
show was the initial bartender owner guy, right? Who's also like a shapeshifter, and he's hot, and he's the ugliest person on the show.
Sam?
It makes Yeah,
No.
exactly. But
I
he's
love
super
Sam.
hot. Like, that's what I'm
So
saying.
hot.
It makes no sense. They cast the hottest cast in the history of television was on True Blood, let me tell you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
god.
that
We'll
that
go
show is
into that for
bonkers.
hours. It was
Yeah,
insane.
let's not start a True Blood podcast. We'll never get anything accomplished. We'll just
Mhm.
be pausing the TV, be like, "Who's shirtless today?" Um, it makes no sense, that show either. Like, I went so far off the rails, but like that brings up the point of like when a show outstays its welcome, like and just starts going insane, you don't
Yeah.
want that, which is why, as much as I'm sad that we're losing Bad Batch after 3 seasons, there's a plan with a beginning, a middle, and an end. The
Yes.
studio is behind this, the creative team is behind this. We as a team now can like cover it appropriately. Like, we feel like we're headed to something that is going to be satisfying because it's planned. Like, True Blood would have been great if it were 4 seasons, and then it was just, a problem by season 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. Well, hopefully X-Men 97 also doesn't overstay its welcome. I don't think it will. I think it's going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to
Yeah.
that. So everyone tune in on Wednesday for X-Men 97 and Bad Batch.
And Bad Batch.
And Bad Batch.
Honestly, it's some of the best animation that we've had in Star Wars
Yeah.
since Clone Wars season 7. So and this season is riveting. There's awesome stuff happening at every turn. So make
Yeah,
sure
it's
you're
been really
watching.
good so far. So, anyway, I think that's everything for tonight. Thank
Yeah.
you guys for joining us. We appreciate you coming in every Monday night. We will see you next week. We have a watch along of we're in season 4 now. Season 4, episode 5, The Occupation.
Ooh, that's a good
I know,
episode.
crazy. All right, we'll see you guys then. See you soon, and may the force be with you.
Bye guys.